My first question to you is, what was your strategy and what is it that led you to build this $10 billion sports and media and entertainment empire?
Kind of left brain, right brain. I bought the sports teams. I had a job at AOL. It was really competitiveness and a public service to the community. I wanted to win a championship, get a little immortality. When I stumbled into it on the business side, I went, this is a really misunderstood, mispositioned industry. Real estate, you're in the real estate business, or teams, there's scarcity, it's like artwork. It wasn't being given the respect that for a business that was subscription oriented, had reoccurring revenues, and that you were in a business where you get national revenues, a league with unbelievable leadership like Adam Silver, Gary Bettman. They were working for you to deliver you big checks. And then you had all of the freedom, if you knew your market, to generate local revenues. So I just felt that this would be an important emerging asset.
When I say $10 billion, the numbers roll off the tongue so easily these days, but they're still somewhat surprising at how large this has all gotten. Does it surprise you? Did you ever imagine it would be even this big?
Well, the Lakers just went for $10 billion. They don't own the building. They don't own the network. They don't have a WNBA team. They don't have a hockey team. What the good news is that now that private equity, sovereign wealth funds have started to come into the business, you can get some liquidity for your partners. There's a lot of action going on. In fact, yesterday's NBA owners meeting was shocking when you look at the changeover in ownership, right? We have the Celtics having a big changeover. You have the Lakers contemplating a big changeover. But once private equity comes in, once smart money, if you will, comes in, you have to start acting like you're a real business. That would be their expectation. And then they're going to be looking for an exit. And even that, we've shut off one way of exiting the public markets. It's only 2 companies that went public.
Why is that?
I think Liberty Media, Dr. Malone, genius, giant, but kind of a tax attorney at heart. And you can't really explain what Liberty Media is. It's 3 or 4 tracking stocks. And then MSG had it. I mean, they had a platform with the teams and the venues and the network. And then because of some financial engineering, they moved it. So now there are 3 or 4 companies. So I think what we want to do, I'm sure there's other groups out there thinking the same way, is let's really look and act like we're a best-in-class software services company. We have an R&D budget. We only focus on customers that will give us long-term contracts that we can build escalators in, so we have a predictability in the business model. And now almost 75% of our revenue across the board, and we can cross-promote, obviously, between WNBA, NBA, NHL, the building, and the network, that's revenue you can count on. And our variable, and that's why I always thought was misunderstood. Well, yeah, but if the team's not good, you won't be able to sell season tickets or tickets. The Wizards are rebuilding. They haven't been a very, very good team. This is a bad year. We're redoing the building. 84% renewals. The Capitals, great team, great stars, predictability, 95% every year. In fact, one of our issues sometimes is with variable pricing, we could get higher yields by selling less season tickets. But I just feel that our fans have been with us for so long, we should do that.
You've done it differently than some, whereas some owners would have a baseball team in one market and a basketball team in another, and maybe a soccer team in continental Europe or wherever. You're local. Are there risks and rewards that come with that? The risk of being levered to one specific market, one specific fan group, one specific economy, and versus the certain pluses of having those three different teams to have the synergies around and all that would come with that?
Oh, I don't know. Roll-ups hardly ever work. It's very hard to just be a holding company, and if you can't get any leverage on the business side, you're certainly not going to get leverage on the team side. And a couple of years ago, the Wizards played the Knicks at the O2 in London, and I was feeling all that, and had some banks over there show us soccer teams, and we spent the day at Chelsea. And I said, we have to stop now. This is so wrong and so inauthentic. How many games am I going to get to here? And how can I add value? How can the organization add value? We're just going to be a higher level debt provider, if you will, right? We'll be in a preferred position. And I think the fans locally will smell the bullshit, right? They'll smell the inauthenticity and they'll reject us. And so I said, if we were going to buy a soccer team, it should be DC United, right? Our market goes from Richmond, Virginia, all the way to Delaware. It's a 10 million household and very educated, very wealthy. And so that's a really, really good swim lane. And so our goal right now, since we bought the network, and we didn't buy an RSN, we bought a digital means to distribute our product, and we have a big footprint still in the terrestrial space, but we need more programming. We need more inventory. We need more way to leverage. And I also think in this new world where you do have some outlier owners, individuals who are very wealthy, it's hard to compete. If you're competing with the Dodgers in baseball, if you're competing with the Mets in baseball, the Red Sox, Yankees, it's tough. And so I think you'll see either real mergers or virtual mergers so that we need summer programming, right? When we go out and get a subscriber and it's just for the winter sports and playoffs end in April, people cancel. If you had more summer programming, and you'd be able to say you can watch every hockey game, every basketball game, every women's basketball game, all these colleges, all these high schools, every baseball game, every soccer game on one network as a season pass. And then you were able to do cross promotion so that you could lift the inventory. You had the facilities all within a network. And speaking on the facilities, these are no longer just bricks and mortar businesses. These are physical AI. Now that should up the valuations, right? Physical AI in the building. You say it a lot,
it might.
But it's true. I mean, we're building a building. We're going to spend almost $1 billion just to renovate the building. 30 years ago, it cost $150 million to build the building. You couldn't ask for more valuable space. I mean, I see the White House. I see the Capitol building. We're 2 blocks from the mall. We're going to build the new front door, along in partnership with our mayor and the city, to downtown Washington, D.C. You have to reimagine what should this city be about. And we're young, we're educated, we're global, we want to welcome tourists, so we need to build the building around that. We bring 3 million people into the city, so we're a portal, if you will, but we need to collect all of that information and data. And when you look at fan engagement, especially locally, if a game is on national broadcast and local broadcast, our local broadcasts get 2 times the engagement and the rating than the national, right? Because you're in your community, you have a familiarity, and the announcers, the production crew, they're all about you, right? It's not, they're not visiting. And so what we're trying to do is I'm looking at the entire experience. It's why I work with the city on traffic mitigation and management. Because someone comes to the game, it was real hard getting around New York today. change my planning for the next time I come. That's really important. Metro downstairs, incredibly important. We're above a metro stop. By the way, most of the National Guard that I've seen in Washington, D.C. is in the metro stops, taking selfies with people coming off and with tourists. But we're such a unique entity in D.C. We have the federal government. We have 200 embassies, 200 languages are spoken here. We have the leagues that we have to deal with, WNBA, NBA, NHL. They all have their different characteristics, different CBAs. But at the end of the day, it's a customer. They leave the office. Unlike New York, by the way, if you haven't been to a Caps game, weeknights here, I go to games at MSG, and you guys go right with suits. Somehow in Washington, they either go home or they bring their jersey, right? Because 7 o'clock, everyone's wearing red. And so we see this elevated role that we play.
It sounds like you have no interest in taking Monumental public.
I think there's going to be an inevitable, if there's not more options for liquidity set in this marketplace, this is going to screech to a halt pretty soon, right? Because, I paid $85 million for the Caps coming in, $2.5, $3 billion, I would say. I paid $350 million for the Wizards, probably $4.5, $5 billion. It sounds great. And you look across the landscape, and we all have to have partners now. And the partners are getting older. I've had 2 partners who have died. And they were close friends, and I love their families. And you have this unbelievable responsibility now. How do you get their estates liquid? And it's only $250 million in after-tax cash that you have to get to them. If you were a public company, you wouldn't have that issue, right? You'd be able to tell them, we'll sell your stock in an orderly way. Or we'd have a great set of investment bankers who would create an internal fund under the commissioner's responsibility that could help you with that. So what we've decided to do is let's act like a pre-IPO company. I'm the longest tenured board member on American Express's board. I've learned a lot about high regulatory environments and how a great company does governance. I'm on the board of an AI company that just went public and is killing it. It's got a $16 billion valuation. We invested at $300 million valuation. So I've seen that side of the world. And I'm still on the board of Groupon, if you can believe it. The turnaround. Well, but having stick-with-itness and grit and respecting the investors, that's what they want. My partners all think of me fondly because, I treat, if you own 2% or 20%, I treat you the same way. You come to the owner's box, we take care of your kids, your guests, your friends. I've gotten everyone back their money plus, and what they're holding is worth 7 times. But that's becoming a problem. Right? And so now that we have these new ways of funding, the Arctoses of the world, Blue Owl, I'm not so sure what they're doing. Blue Owl individuals are going out and buying into teams, right? We don't have enough access to liquidity, and I think the reason is because there's not enough ways to exit. So I've said we have a really, really sound high fidelity strategy. We have one platform, the building, the network, the sales team, one CFO. We just brought on this week long-term 14-year CFO of Warby Parker. And we raised a lot of money for them when they were private, took them IPO, and now has been managing it. I loved it, his experience, very retail. I want us to be more personalized in everything. Well, nothing is more intimate than trying on the glasses and each size and the colors, and he's right age, right style. We brought in AJ Jones runs now communications for us, and he worked at Starbucks for Howard Schultz and all 15 of their presidents or whatever it was in the short period of time. But that's what we're going to have to do. We brought in a CTO from a big public company. And it's amazing to me that if we're going to be a SaaS business, and these teams are not going to be run as mom and pop stores, if there was an R&D budget. Steve Ballmer and I pushed to have R&D budget. You must be spending a certain amount of your dollars on, obviously, players, but you also have to be spending it on future-proofing the business, digitizing the business. So we'll act like a pre-IPO company. We're going to go back and look at the financials 3 years back. We'll look 3 years forward. That should crescendo with when the opening of our new building is. It's $1 billion, but in our forecast, we see $125 million a year uplift, right? We have suites that, when the building opened, sold for $100,000 to $200,000. Now we have suites that are $2.5 million that they're 10-year commitments, $25 million. You can't see them. We have like a little model home area. We've already sold 4 of them. And that's, so the revenues, we'll do $750 million this year. We've been growing double digit. It obviously gets harder with what's happening in the local media side, but we'll still have growth. We're generating EBITDA, but now we've had to add debt because we have to make our commitment into the building. But even with that, if we're doing $1 billion in 3 years, which is pretty programmed in revenue, we'll have $600 million of debt. And that's a really, really important thing. That's probably not, I don't like debt. I'm a poor kid from Brooklyn, and my dad never had a credit card. So I abhor debt. Private equity guys love debt. Most companies that get in trouble is because they're over-levered, right? Ares, fantastic, best in class. They own sports teams. If you want money from Ares or these big guys, it's 12, 13%, 12, 13%. Your mother would say, no, you're getting 1% or 2% on your money in the bank. You're going to borrow money at 12 or 13%. So the leagues have done a great job in idiot-proofing our business. We have debt limits, as my friends from Citibank here will remind me all the time. And so the leagues, their rules, their efforts at the top, and then if you have a talented local side, you should be able to make this a good growth business. Certainly the best positioned in the media and tech space. And I think that's why you're seeing these running in to pay, $10 billion for the, now I'm sure it'll be balanced down, but does that mean the Lakers are going to sell in 5 years, 10 years for $20 billion? What do you think, Eric?
Let's continue the conversation at dinner, shall we?
Great, thank you.